The lunch rush at the Copper Lantern was always loud, always messy, always chaotic. But on that particular Friday, the chaos didn't come from clattering dishes or customers crowding for tables. It came from the man seated at table 14, the one who believed the world itself rotated only because he allowed it to. Arav Malhotra, the billionaire investor known for buying collapsing companies the way most people bought snacks, had swept into the restaurant with the arrogance of someone who never heard no in his life. His entourage followed, suits sharp enough to cut the air, faces blank like carved marble, their posture declaring that anyone who approached them should already feel grateful. The only person unimpressed by the display was Sarah Mera, the waitress who, at 26, had seen enough wealthy patrons to know that money didn't guarantee manners. Sarah approached the table with her practiced smile, the one that held just enough warmth to feel real and just enough distance to protect her from the inevitable nonsense. "Good afternoon. What can I get you?" Finally, Arav snapped without looking up, his eyes on his phone. "We've been waiting forever." Sarah blinked. She'd barely stepped up to the table. "I'm sorry, sir. We're a bit busy, but I'll take your, do you not understand the word, finally?" he demanded, louder this time. A few heads turned. His team sat stone still, pretending nothing was wrong. Sarah inhaled slowly. She knew this type. The kind that believed volume equaled power. She didn't flinch. She didn't back down. Instead, with calm, measured irritation, she said, "Sir, I'm here now. What would you like to order?" Arav finally looked up, eyes narrowing as if he couldn't believe the audacity of someone speaking to him without trembling. "Is that your tone?" Sarah held his gaze. "Is that your question?" Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, then annoyance, then something darker. He leaned back, lips curling. "You're not very good at your job, are you?" The restaurant quieted. Just a little, just enough, for the tension to become thick and undeniable. Sarah had dealt with rudeness before. She had dealt with entitled customers, impatient customers, drunk customers, rich customers, all kinds. But this wasn't simple rudeness. It was disrespect sharpened by privilege. She placed her notepad down slowly. "Sir," she said, voice low and steady, "shout at me again, and I'll end you." The words were not screamed. They weren't even threatening in volume. They were simply honest, iron-coated truth delivered with the precision of someone who had nothing left to tolerate. The whole table froze. One of the assistants exhaled sharply as if he'd swallowed a cough. No one had ever spoken to Arav Malhotra like that. Not in a restaurant, not in a boardroom, not anywhere. Arav's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. He looked almost offended by his own shock. "You'll end me," he repeated, as if tasting the words. "What does that even mean?" "It means," Sarah said, leaning in slightly, "that people like you need to learn that the world doesn't revolve around you. And someone has to teach you." You could have heard a teaspoon drop. Arav stared at her. No longer angry, just studying her with the bewilderment of a man encountering a new species. Then something unexpected happened. He laughed. Not a mocking laugh, not cruel, just honest. "No one," he said, shaking his head, "has ever spoken to me like that." "Maybe that's the problem," she replied. For one long second, they simply looked at each other. The billionaire and the waitress. Ego and exhaustion. Power and defiance. Then Arav said, "Fine. If you want me to treat you differently, earn it. Tell me your story." The table blinked. Sarah frowned. "What? Your story?" Arav repeated. "You clearly have a spine. I want to know what built it." "Sir," Sarah said slowly, "this is a restaurant, not a confession booth." "Then consider this a request from a paying customer." "You haven't paid yet." His lips twitched. Amused. "Fair enough. But humor me." She should have walked away. She should have written down the order and moved on with her shift. But something about the moment felt pivotal, unusual, like the universe had paused and was waiting for someone to take the next step. So she said, "Fine. But you order first." "Bring me whatever you think'll like," he said. "Surprise me." Of course he'd say that. She scribbled 2 dishes, turned on her heel, and vanished into the kitchen. And that was the moment Arav knew she wasn't like anyone he'd ever met. When she finally returned with the plates, she set them down gently, professionally, but her expression was still sharp. Arav gestured at the empty chair across from him. Sit. I'm working. I'll pay for your time. She raised a brow. You don't own me. I wouldn't dare assume, he said softly. Something in his tone changed. Softer. More thoughtful. The entourage shifted uncomfortably, as if witnessing something they had no right to witness. Finally, Sarah sat, just for a moment, arms crossed. What do you want to know? She asked. Everything, he said. Start with why you don't take crap from anyone, not even me. She exhaled. Then, unexpectedly, she told him. Not everything, but enough. About working 3 jobs since she was 19. About paying off her mother's medical bills. About being told repeatedly by customers and managers that service workers should know their place. About watching people assume she was less intelligent, less capable, less human, simply because she served food instead of sitting in a glass office tower. Arav listened, really listened, something he rarely did. When she finished, he didn't speak immediately. He just stared at her with a strange, unreadable intensity. You work harder than anyone in my entire company, he finally said. She shrugged. That doesn't make me special. No, he replied. It makes everyone else lazy. His team stiffened. Sarah snorted. You shouldn't say that in front of them. They'll live, he said, waving dismissively. Then he leaned forward. I misjudged you. You yelled at me. You yelled back. I didn't yell, she corrected. I threatened. Yes, he said, smiling slowly, and quite effectively. The tension softened, then shifted into something almost playful. Then curious. Then something else neither of them had the language for yet. When she stood to leave, Arav said, come work for me. She froze. Doing what? Serving coffee to executives who think they're gods. No, he said. Managing customer relations for my hospitality investments. You have backbone, judgment, wit, and you can read people in seconds. I need someone like that. Sarah laughed. She genuinely thought he was joking. Yeah, okay, I'm serious. I'm not qualified. You're more qualified than half the people I've hired. She shook her head. Thank you, but I'm not leaving this job for some billionaire impulse. It's not an impulse, he said. It's recognition. Of what? Potential. The word hung in the air like a challenge. She didn't respond. Couldn't. Not yet. She walked away before he could say anything more. The next day, he came back. And the next. And the next. Sometimes he ordered food. Sometimes only coffee. Sometimes he just sat quietly, working on his laptop, waiting for the brief moments she passed his table. And slowly, the tension transformed into conversation. The conversation into banter. Banter into something like friendship. And friendship into something neither of them dared to name. One evening, when the restaurant closed, he lingered near the door. Sarah, he said gently, you never answered my offer. Because I'm thinking, she replied. About what? She hesitated. About whether trusting you is wise. It isn't, he admitted. She blinked. At least you're honest. With you. Always. She looked down at her apron, then at him. Why me? Because the first time we met, he said, you didn't see a billionaire. You saw a man behaving badly. And you weren't afraid to break the illusion. Silence stretched, warm and fragile. You changed me that day, he said quietly. Most people bend to me. You didn't. And I haven't stopped thinking about it. Her breath caught. Not romantically, not dramatically, just with the shock of feeling seen. Truly seen. I don't need saving, she said. I know, he replied. Maybe I'm the one who does. For once, she didn't know what to say. So she simply whispered, I'll think about it. And she did. For days. For nights. For shifts. For moments she couldn't ignore anymore. Then one morning, she walked into the Copper Lantern, untied her apron, and placed it on the counter. Her manager blinked. You quitting? I'm trying something new, she said. An hour later, she walked into Arav's office. He stood when he saw her. She crossed her arms. I'll take the job, she said. On one condition. Name it. Never shout at anyone like that again. Not employees. Not waitresses. Not me. He stepped closer, eyes warm. Fair. And if you do, she added, I'll end you. His smile was slow and genuine. I'd expect nothing less. And that was how the waitress who refused to bow became the woman who changed the billionaire who thought he ruled the world. Not through fear. Not through threats. Not through money. but simply by refusing to accept less than respect. Sometimes the loudest transformations start with the quietest words. And sometimes, all it takes to humble a billionaire is a waitress brave enough to say, "Try that again, and watch what happens."